this week felt less productive, given I didn't spend almost any time sitting down and working on refining the craft, as much as I did sort of going through the mental gymnastics around all of the fears that I experienced. And I've noticed that in other times in my life and in other areas, how when I almost realize that if I invest my time, if I invest my effort, and if I start to care about something, then the consequences of failure, the consequences of not being perfect, or the consequences of, all these different things, like the more I care about something, the more I invest in something, the more that I guess this big fear of failure, this fear that ultimately kind of paralyzes me or fills my mind in such a way where I more or less talk myself out of doing, said thing, happens. And so that happened for me this week. And in order to address that, I took a good amount of time to sort of think about it in as non-judgmental a way as I could muster. I tried to make some observations and connect some dots around what I experienced this week, and kind of at other times in my life, like where have I seen this pattern before? And and then I started to just ask some questions around what might be helpful for me here, as I kind of think about what the next steps might look like. So I guess I kind of already touched on them, but in this case, in this context, when it comes to recording videos and posting them on the interwebs, I am afraid of failure. And I guess that might mean, what my brain might say in an exaggerated extreme case would be I am talking like this right now, for example, and I misspeak, or I do one of the things that I've pointed out in other videos where I break eye contact, or it just becomes, I guess, weird, or I don't know, failure on my end as far as trying to communicate a thought clearly, I guess. Not being perfect, very similar thing, just not being able to clearly flesh out a thought or put it into words, not seeing immediate outcomes, not seeing results. I guess it's I think as I've shifted for myself this mentality of YouTube is something that I go to and I watch videos on it, to YouTube is a platform where I'm starting to do that as well. You kind of inevitably step into this new mindset, and there are new questions that you ask, and there are new things that you pay attention to. And so in a way, YouTube and starting to make YouTube videos, you start to look at numbers and I guess I was going to say not numbers, but you look at the numbers that are or are not there, and that all that kind of is information that your brain aggregates into your perception of your self-worth or value or success. And so all of that is kind of been I guess those fears have painted the mental landscape for me this week. I've noticed more generally in my life that, and I've seen this in work, I've seen this in different forms of movement, exercise, fitness that I've pursued over the years. I really enjoy new projects. I really enjoy the process of starting something new, and I think I bring about as the most energy as I ever could to the early stages of some initiative. And I've noticed that it's hard for me to see things through completely all the way sometimes. And so seeing how this week was spent less time in this chair sitting and recording videos, it made me curious of shoot, like I had a good amount of motivation last week, but this week was very different in that regard. And yeah, it kind of made me curious if this is a similar pattern that I'm encountering now. In an effort to just try to drive some curiosity around this, to dismantle the fear and try to find a clear path forward. Some things I'm curious about: can I replace fear with growth mindset? Can I replace the things, the actual sources of fear or of stress or of whatever those are, and can I instead think about those as like growth mindset opportunities? I think the first video I posted, day one, is a great example of this, where I knew the whole time, and repeatedly as I was recording it, there were times in which I was like, this is just so bad, and I'm failing like just publicly right now, or will that is what somebody will see when they watch this, and immediately in day two, it was actually quite convenient that I was able to use day one's failures and shortcomings as like a direct area of growth, and there were plenty of things for me to talk about as far as like, hey, I failed here, I failed that way, like I could improve this, I could improve that. Second would be, there's this like almost threshold of discomfort when I think anytime you are trying something new, and for me it would be like, making YouTube videos, and I think within that threshold of comfort, that sort of is also like that turning point in the process of like having a lot of energy and a lot of motivation for starting something new, some new project, some new idea, some new habit or whatever. You hit that threshold of like discomfort, or when like the like honeymoon phase ends, and you realize that like, oh, it's a lot of hard work, or it's a lot of monotonous work, or it's just when you consider, or when like kind of time plays out and you realize that the thing that you committed to, or the ideas you had around a thing and what it will look like, the long-term actuality of what it becomes is just different from what you expected or what you anticipated, and you realize, oh, I actually don't care about this enough, or it's like actually not what I wanted. Like, I guess the questions I'm asking for myself around that whole process are like, what will it take and how can I navigate? Because in a way I sort of find myself in that way, or at least that's the mental model I'm using to kind of wrap my mind around like where I've been mentally, emotionally this week with this process. And yeah, I guess I'm curious, and I'm trying to take that fear, I'm trying to take these observations I've made and reframe it for myself around like, okay, like what are the opportunities here for me to learn as I'm in this like, threshold of discomfort right now. What are the opportunities? How long will it take? And yeah, how can I basically just reframe this as like an experiment and as an exploration? Fear and stressors and pressure don't need to turn into these big show-stopping, paralyzing mental blockers. They can be opportunities for curiosity and growth, and an invitation to mystery, rather than a cold plunge into tensing up and being afraid. I don't know if I have any more thoughts beyond this, but wanted to, just at a high level, kind of get my thoughts out around, I'm just been straight up afraid and making a lot of excuses this week. And I think it seems to align with other times in my life where I've tried to start something new and very quickly get demotivated. And what I want to try to apply here now is a curious approach to how can I navigate the threshold of discomfort that I'm experiencing in the short term, and how can curiosity maybe help me alleviate and navigate the fears that I'm experiencing now in order to keep moving forward. So if you have any questions or thoughts around some of the things I've been thinking about to navigate this, or if there are patterns like in your life where you've seen yourself either be really afraid about just doing a thing, or starting something but then not seeing it all the way through, or just questions around how to shift your perspective and incorporate more of like a growth mentality towards things that you're going through, yeah, feel free to reach out. Happy to chat. That's all. Thanks for watching.